Hello everybody, how is it going? It is 2K time. How's everybody doing? As I mentioned the other day, I have been obsessed with basketball lately. I've been playing just a metric ton of NBA 2K. And howdy Trash Can, how's it going? Between the end of college women's basketball and college men's basketball, the WNBA draft, now the NBA playoffs, it is the perfect time to be a basketball fan. I forgot to mention it the other day, but I was watching the Thunder play the Mavericks the other day, and at the end of the game they do this thing. If it's a close game, you late game foul, you want to hack the guy with the lowest free throw percentage who's going to take the shots. And watching Chet Holmgren chase Derek Lively, who is a rookie, around the court like a Scooby-Doo villain was honestly a highlight of my day. It was so funny. Normally they just stand there and take it, but Derek Lively was like, you know what? It's my first year in the league. I'm going to run around a little. And I highly recommend watching that clip if you haven't seen it yet. It's so funny. Also, speaking of the Mavericks, Luka Doncic, top 3 basketball player in the world, maybe the best right now. The other day, in the middle of the playoff series, posted a story on his Instagram of him breaking into... He's now top 500 in Overwatch. How are you going to be that good at basketball and that good at Overwatch? You're in the middle of the playoffs. Your knees have been bleeding for 3 weeks. Every time I watch the game, his knees are bloody. What do you mean you go home, go on the bus, open up a laptop or something and play Overwatch and you're top 500 in Overwatch? What do you mean? Why are you doing this? That's like way too much effort. But I guess he's dedicated to the game, you know? The game waits for no one. But anyway, today we're going to be playing some association basketball. This is NBA 2K23. I don't have 24 because every year they don't make the best version of 2K available on PC, and so I was like, you know what, I'm not going to get 24 for PC. So I didn't. So we're going to be starting a year back. The teams are a little strange. Not the same teams as they are in real life. But you know, I'll go over that once we get into it. But what we're going to be doing today is we're going to try to figure out how best can we rebuild the Detroit Pistons. There's infinite ways to make the Pistons a better team. They are one of the worst teams in the league, and they have been pretty much my whole life, except for 2004. So it's not too hard to do, but we're going to be looking at some stuff. I wonder if I should turn the sound effects on here? Just so you know I'm not lying to you. Are you purring into the microphone? Ashes, what are you doing? She's purring into the microphone. But just so you know, I'm not lying. I definitely play the game completely mute. I think we'll do the default. We'll just turn the commentary off, and then we will turn the PA way down because it's loud. Turn the crowd down. Turn the player chatter down. Something like that, right? Let me know how that sounds. Or if you can even hear it over the BGM. I don't know. Ashes, what are you doing? You're getting in my way. Come here. Everybody say hi to the cat. It's very weird hearing it with the Shoe squeak volume max. It is on 100. Also, I have modded this game quite a bit just because the game doesn't have the faces of a lot of the players. Doesn't have their current looks, or they just look bad, or they don't even have their like face scans at all. Austin Reeves, a starter for the Lakers this entire season of this game, doesn't have his real face in the base version of the game, and they never added it in, even though he was on the team for the whole year. They just waited for 24 to do that, but so, you know, stuff like that. But I also have reshade on, so when I turn it on, everything gets brighter, but it also messes up the menus a little bit. So we'll keep it off for the menus, so you don't get all those weird lines, but it makes the game look way better in-game, on the court and stuff. But I'm going to show you two... how should I do this? Can I look at the roster? Yeah, let's just look at the roster here. Yeah, roster. No, I want to look at the roster. Oh, whatever. We'll just make a new My League because we're going to have to make one anyway. We'll put it in 4. Ashes, you gotta stop. Can you stop headbutting my monitor? What do you want? What do you want from me? But anyways, we're going to start in the regular season because... Jesus Christ. Ow. Why did you do that? Hold on a second. Ow. Alright, I'm back. Ashes decided to sit next to me and then bite my resting arm with all of her might. That was not very nice of her. There's a deep indent right on my One Piece tattoo. You made me bleed. No Nakama for you. Stop it. What was I saying? Oh. We are going to be starting in the regular season, starting in the off season. Stop. Please. Don't yell at me. You are attacking me. I'm sitting here peacefully. Stop it. Stop. Why are you swiping at me? Why? What is happening here? Stop it. Stop. Oh my goodness. I'm just curled up in a ball in my office chair. You don't need to be attacking me. Stop. Come here. I'm not gonna hurt you. You're gonna hurt me. No. You're scary. She's scary. You got sharp teeth, dude. Look at that. You drew blood. No, you do not swipe at me. You do not do that. Here. Come on. Come on. Get out of here. I don't know what her problem is, but apparently it's with me. She came back in here just to attack me. Third time's the charm. We're going to be starting in the regular season because the off season is even messier and it hurts my brain. But I have a bunch of sliders already set. I have all the player progression and difficulty and all that kind of stuff is custom, so that's not a big deal. But we go over to pick the Pistons, and I'll show you what we're working with here. We also have the real 2023 draft class that I have locally on my computer, so we can draft Wemby and all these guys into the league. But the team is bad. Best player, year 2, Cade Cunningham. We drafted Jaden Ivey, whose hair, because of the mods, sometimes goes away, so we got to give him his hair back. Poor guy. And then we just have really bad players. We have Jalen Duren, which is always a bonus, but everybody else is on the chopping block, so to speak. Nobody can stay. The Pistons have been a bad team for a long time. They should have dumped a lot of their players much sooner. Instead, they've paid Killian Hayes for like 4 years straight, started him over Jaden Ivey, who they drafted 5th in the 2022 draft class for no reason. Killian Hayes is barely a basketball player. But we got some good veteran guys. Bojan and Alec Burks. Isaiah Stewart's a good Piston. But we just have no success because the front office is absolute garbage. They don't have him in here, but Troy Weaver, Monty Williams, they're not worth the money that they are being paid. So even if they were here, they would all get fired. I don't like any of them. The Pistons have not had a good front office since, I don't know, 1998, whenever Joe Dumars became the general manager. And then signed Darko Milicic over Carmelo Anthony for no reason. It's been a bad time for the Pistons. I read an article the other day, that they didn't even have a player, what is it called? Like a team operations guy? The position has been, or player operations or something? They haven't had a guy for taking care of the team for like 3 years? No wonder. Absolutely no wonder. And then Troy Weaver has made terrible decisions since whenever, 2019, when he was hired. Monty Williams came in and we're like, oh, he's a good coach. He'll help us out. And then he played some of the stupidest lineups I've ever seen in my life. Why is Killian Hayes a starter? Why is he playing minutes over Jaden Ivey? Why do we have so many big men still on the team for no reason? But yeah, we're going to sign Benjamin Walker as an assistant coach, but we sign him as a head coach because he's just he's balanced system. He has high potential. He's good at everything a little bit, and he's got a good defense, which is sort of what I bring to the table in my play style. I like a good defensive team. I like a good two-way team. Can play defense, can play offense. And then Trent Peterson as our assistant coach, who can make up for that lower offensive stat for a couple of years before veterans like LeBron James start retiring. And then you can just hire them to be your assistant coaches if they work out. Usually LeBron's a pretty good coach. The last simulation that I did, he was terrible. But we fired basically everybody except for the CFO because the CFO doesn't matter. We can replace him later on when his contract runs out. And most of these guys have the same character model, so that's great. They're just wearing different clothes. Twinsies. But one of our biggest issues for this season is that we do have still Blake Griffin opted out of his contract. We still have $30 million being paid to him that go against our salary cap, even though he's on another team. Also, Dwayne Dedman, who is on the Sixers, who has never played for the Philadelphia or for Detroit. Somehow, I don't know how, we have his presumably like 5-year, $3 million contract forever. This is only 4 years, but I assume they had this for a while. And this guy who's not even Zaire Smith, who's not even he doesn't play basketball anymore, or at least not in the NBA. But the first thing I do is we just get rid of our two-way players. We can sign better two-way players later on. And no, there is no good trade for Eugene Omoruyi. He is, in real life, he's on the Wizards, but he's terrible. So off he goes. He is released from the team. You can find him somewhere in here. There he is. He's a free agent now. Wish him all the best. But like I was saying, the rosters are not current. Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, and OG Anunoby are all still on the Raptors, even though they're not in real life. Damian Lillard's still on the Trailblazers. Jordan Poole's still on the Warriors. Bradley Beal and Porzingis are still on the Wizards. James Harden's still on the 76ers. Jrue Holiday's still on the Bucks, etc., etc. But the teams are pretty good still, for the most part, and we can kind of work around that. The problem is, the easiest way, the best thing for the Pistons to do, which they should have done as soon as Reggie Jackson and Andre Drummond left the team in the late 2010s, they should have just blown everything up. And yet, here we are, just holding on with our cold, dead hands. Troy Weaver holding on to Killian Hayes and some of these other guys that we very much do not need. So, before I do this, let me make sure my autosave is on. It is. Before we do this, I'm going to show you a couple of rebuilds that I've done before. I rebuilt them today, just so I could show you guys. The first one, I think, is this one. Nope, the other one. The first one I'm going to show you is an insane rebuild. There's no reason to do this, but it is possible, and it does make sense for the teams that have been dealt with in the trades and stuff. But we have a much better team. We've unloaded everybody off the bench, but we have kept Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, and Cade Cunningham. At our point guard, we have Cade Cunningham, John Wall, who you can, because he's injured in real life in this season, you can sign him to a free agency because the injury roster is turned off. And he's one of my favorite point guards of all time. We signed Kemba Walker just because he has a ton of badges. He can be a good mentor to somebody, so he can offload some of those badges onto our younger players. And we traded for Jaden Springer with the 76ers. He's actually a shooting guard, but if you change his position to point guard, he actually his overall gets higher. He goes from like a 71 or a 72 to a 74 if you make point guard his primary position. So that's what we have done, and he can get minutes if any of these guys get injured, or if we need somebody to come in at the 2, because we don't have any other shooting guards. But we still have Jaden Ivey. We traded for Dante DiVincenzo because he is kind of perfect for this team. Like I said, I love a good two-way player. He can play offense really well. He has good perimeter defense and playmaking, and he has a really high IQ, which means he's going to be good on both ends of the floor. He's going to know how to read screens. He's going to know how to pass the ball. He's going to know how to do stuff. And so he's really good on this team. And then we have a two-way player with a high potential that we might be able to sign again in the off season. Then we traded for Paul George, who I like getting on this team and this class. If it was 1 year ahead, like if we were playing with the 2K24 roster, I don't think I would trade for him, just because he's 33 instead of 32, and he's older and worse. But at this age, and also he gets better when you switch him. He's on the Clippers, he's a shooting guard in this game. If you switch him back to a small forward, he again gets a little bit better. But he's a really good defender, and he's really good at offense, and he has a very high IQ, which makes him perfect for what I believe is a good Pistons team. When I think of the Pistons, I think of attitude, I think of good defense, I think of grit, hard work, toughness on both ends of the floor. I think of two-way players, and I think Paul George fits that pretty well. He's a relatively consistent guy, and, you know, since he has 2 years left on his contract and a player option, you can get 3 years out of him, 3 of his best years, arguably, without taking too much of a hit, because he is, right, if you keep your young core, you could even keep Isaiah Stewart, you could even keep Bojan Bogdanovic if you really wanted to. And you really just bring in a star player into the Pistons, which makes the team better. Gary Payton we acquired with Dante DiVincenzo. Both of them are on the Warriors in this game's roster. And Gary Payton does fit the bill for good. He's a very good defensive player, but he's not the best player. You know, he's good off the bench. He can help you get some stops on if you need some extra defense. He's very athletic. Has a very good dunk package. He's got some very entertaining dunks. He's a left-handed shooter, so he might be able to create some space in that way, but he's not the best, and he's not super consistent. And honestly, he's very good for trading after this season. He's very good for trading in the off season. To get some picks, or just a player with a cheaper contract. He's getting $8 million on a multi-year contract for not doing a whole lot. I simmed earlier, and he averaged about 4 points per game on like 20 minutes, which is not very good. But when you actually play the game, he's a pretty good defensive guy. And Peyton Watson, again, is technically a shooting guard in the game, but if you swamp his primary and secondaries around, he again gets a little bit better. He's got a long contract. He's a rookie this season, so he's a good project. He's going to grow a lot. He's got a high-ish potential. Probably get to like a 77, 78 overall. And with Gary Payton out of the way, in the next season, in the future, he's a good guy to have. Lauri Markkanen is very good. Switch him to power forward so he's 7 foot tall. He doesn't need to be playing the small forward, especially when he has a really good inside game. He has great footwork. And again, he's not the best defender, but he's a very good offensive player with a high IQ. So he fits the team as a two-way player. And he's making like no money a year. So we have extra cap room for him. Robert Covington, again, a good two-way player. He comes with the Paul George trade just because the Clippers they have such high contracts that you got to take somebody. And I like Robert Covington. He can come off the bench. He can give you a little bit of everything. Good defense, good three-point shooting, great rebounding, a lot of badges to help him out. And then we can sign LaMarcus Aldridge in the free agency for a $0 contract because he's 37 years old and he can give you some good veteran minutes. And then we have another G League player with a good potential to help us out. And then, of course, Jalen Duren. Montrezl Harrell, former 6th man of the year. Montrezl Harrell, so Nas Reed could Nas Reed. is the way that I would put it. He's very good. He's very inconsistent. This says 78 overall, but sometimes you're going a game and he'll be like a 73 overall because his offense is gone or his defense isn't as good that day. But he's a good bench center to come behind Jalen Duren, a rookie this year. And then we got Sandro Mamukelashvili, who I think if you go into the game plan, his name doesn't actually show up on the thing. His name is too long. He becomes just Sandro, which is rough. But he's on a 1-year contract. He's cheap. 3rd string center. He can shoot the ball. He's left-handed 3 shooter. He can play. He can rebound. He's not very good, but we need somebody to help us out. That's one. The problem with this one is that it is a huge rebuild. We have negative money. We've gone over the luxury tax, and we will for the next couple of years until our contracts start running out, although we can unload. Robert Covington gets a lot worse after 1 year. Gary Payton is not that good to begin with, so we can get rid of his contract a year later. So we free up some room a year early, so it's not quite accurate. But the problem is it takes up too much money, and you have to give away a lot of picks. Pretty much all of your 2nd round picks and your 2026 first round pick to get a team that is very good. 99 defense, 95 offense, 97 overall. It's a very good team with hopes for the future. You can get some good years out of Paul George and Lauri Markkanen, and then re-sign. After that, you can re-sign Cade and Jalen Duren, maybe even Jaden Ivey if you have enough cap space after 3 or 4 years. Because Kemba's on a 1 year, LaMarcus is on a 1 year. Some of these other guys have only 1 year because they're old as shit and they don't need to be here, but you need time for your younger guys to sort of develop. Jaden Ivey's only going to get better. Cade Cunningham's only going to get better. Jalen Duren's only going to get better. They're rookies / sophomores. And same with Peyton Watson and Jaden Springer. So in the future, that's a great team. You can have a ton of mentorship going on because of those minimum contract veterans. But a more realistic build, I think. One that keeps you a little bit more underneath the cap. Instead of having negative 40 mil below the tax, luxury tax, this one you have a bunch more money. You still have Paul George and Robert Covington, but you still have hope for the future. And you still have hope for the future. You get to keep a lot of picks or acquire new ones. Instead of throwing away your future. It's a similar team. Still have Cade Cunningham. Still sign John Wall because you can sign him very cheaply since he's a free agent and he's old, but he's still very good. Nashawn Highland comes with the Paul George trade. Bones Highland. He does not get a lot of minutes, but he can come in if anybody is fatigued or gets injured, and he's a very good guy to have off the bench. He's a very good shooter, not a very good defender, not very strong, but he's not a bother to have. And then we signed Cat Barber, who I think has a high potential. He's a really good passer, good defender, promising shooter. So I was just messing around with some of the two-way players, trying to see which G League free agents were good enough to hang out on the team. Still have Jaden Ivey. Boston Jr. comes in the Paul George trade. I did a huge Paul George trade to give like 4 players, but they're on cheaper contracts and they're decent to begin with. We still have Peyton Watson. We still have him here. You can see he's a 72 and not a 74 overall because he's in at shooting guard, because we don't really need another small forward, because even though we have Paul George here, we have Corey Kispert coming off the bench. Phenomenal shooter, decent. defender. He's still got 3 years to go on his rookie contract. High IQ, very good shooter. Usually when I sim with a team, with him on my team, he ends up leading the league in 3-point percentage, or top 3 at the very least. And then Najee Marshall, who is decent. He's not the best player in the world, but he is lights out from mid-range, which I feel like fits the Pistons team pretty well. And then instead of Lauri Markkanen's, along with Corey Kispert, you can get Denny Avdia, both from the Wizards. And he, as you can see, he does a little bit of everything. He's got B pluses, A minuses, and pretty much everything, with a decent potential. And that's kind of what you want. You could also, instead of getting Denny Avdia and Corey Kispert, you could also trade for a guy like Draymond Green, who is essentially just a better Denny Avdia. So you can just get a younger Denny Avdia on a 2-year contract, and you feel better about yourself because you're spending $5 million instead of $25 million for a 40-year-old almost. He's like 34 or something, 33. So this is just a better trade, I think. And he can kind of start. And you still have Robert Covington coming off the bench. Again, still good at threes, still good at defense, still a lot of badges. And then you could still sign LaMarcus Aldridge if you want. Or you could trade for a guy like Rudy Gay, who I've always liked. I liked him when he was on the Kings, when he was on Memphis. And again, he's lights out from the mid-range. He's a good rebounder. He's 36 years old, aging veteran. But for a year, he could help you get a win. And instead of Montrezl Harrell, Isaiah Jackson from the Pacers, the Pacers for some reason have him in the G League, not playing, even though he's better than Daniel Tice for sure, but they don't play him for some reason. So I figured, why not take him? And he's very good at defense. He's very good rebounder, good at not as athletic as Jalen Duren, but he's still good at blocking, still good at rebounding, still good at scoring in the paint. So, and he's only going to get better. He's 20 years old. He's a sophomore in the league. I don't know why they have him in the G League. And then Bruno Fernando, it says 77, but that's just from the chemistry. He's not that good, but he can rebound. He has an A+ in rebounding, and he can block. So that's all you need if you need somebody coming in off the third string. So this team, I think, is actually the same. 99 defense, 94 offense, 97 overall. It's literally the same overall, with a little bit of a different system, a lot more money to work with, and a lot more picks to work with in the future. So it's maybe a more realistic rebuild than torching everything. But those are kind of the rebuilds I've done so far. I want to do something a little bit new. I'm not sure what, but we gotta find a way to unload all of these guys. The first guy that needs to go is Killian Hayes. I hate this man. I also hate Corey Joseph. He's got a very hateable face. I didn't like him on the Spurs. I didn't like him on the Raptors. I didn't like him on the Pistons. I just do not like Corey Joseph, and I want to get him off of the team at all times. I used to do Sacramento rebuilds in 2019, and he's on the Kings, and he's not on the Kings when I'm done with him. But Killian Hayes, for some reason, still has a 3-star value in this game, so we can get a lot of different guys for him. I don't actually know if you can see this behind the chat because I did not test this game very much, but we can get Andre Drummond back on the team. Derek Jones Jr., not a good system player, but very athletic. Could be a good third string guy. If you want to just put somebody in to dunk over guys, that's probably a great move. But we don't really need guards. We don't really need... Malik Monk could be a good addition to the team. He should have been, in real life, I think, 6th man of the year, but Naz Reid got it this year. Because he's Naz Reid. Of course he's going to get it. So this is a good trade. It's... we would gain negative 2.38 million, so we'd free up some money, which could be good for us. 80 overall. Terrence Davis is whatever. We don't really care about Terrence Davis, but he could be a good asset for us off the 3rd string for a year if we need him. Malik Monk has a 2-year contract, $9 million a year. That's not terrible. We would actually have more money if we took this trade, so that's a good trade. I don't think Gogo Badansi and Bol is what we're looking for. We could get a starting small forward in Tim Hardaway Sr., but we're already paying Bojan Bogdanovic. This is a similar amount of money, and Bojan's just better. So I don't really think we need to do that. We could make an easy trade for Kira Lewis, who is worse, who's not that good, but he does have a high potential. And Najee Marshall, who we know is already on the team in an alternate universe. We can get Jayshawn Tate, who has a 3-year contract. Well, 2 years with a team option, so we could decide if he comes back or not. But he... 12 points a game, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, basically. 50% shooting on 26 minutes per game. He's not terrible, but if you look at his grades, he's also not great. He's got a high IQ, and he can play defense, but he cannot shoot the ball in any sense of the word. He can dunk, and that's about it. So maybe Frank Kaminsky, we know, can shoot. He's not the best. Oh, he can defend a little bit. He can rebound a little bit. He's 7 foot tall. Could be a good 3rd string center for us. So Malik Monk or Jayshawn Tate, both would be coming off the bench, but in fact, let's go back to the Kings here and look at Malik Monk's B+, B, B+, B+, B-. He's pretty consistent across the board, B+, generally. He's not as good at defense, but he's way better at offense. Terrence Davis, also good at defense, good at 3-point shooting, decent in offense. That could be something for us. Jayshawn Tate, I just don't think has it. He has a high IQ, but I'm not sure beyond that. Campaign, which is one of the best names in basketball, if you ask me. Campaign. And 1 year, TJ Warren. TJ Warren went off in the bubble. But I don't know if Campaign really has what we want from him. I don't really know what he's good at besides playmaking. He's not very good at defense, but I guess he's pretty good at offense. He can facilitate the ball. He does not have a high IQ, but TJ Warren, I don't think I'm going to go with this trade, but it's an option. Going for an evening walk. We're going to leave your computer looking. Have a good walk. I'll still be here. We trade up a 1st round pick for Isaiah Joe, who is lights out from pretty much anywhere on the court. He can shoot. He can pass a little bit. he's not a liability on defense. He doesn't have a high potential, but he doesn't really need a high potential when you already have an A+3. He's pretty good. I have made Pistons teams with Isaiah Joe on them, but the problem with Isaiah Joe is he's mad that he doesn't get minutes. Even if you play him 30 minutes a game as your sixth man or whatever, he ruins the team chemistry for sure. Lindy Waters, also a decent pickup. Both are shooting guards, so it might pay to dump one of them. I know if you trade for Lindy Waters, you can trade him again immediately. He doesn't have a trade hold on him or anything. You don't have to wait to trade him again because he I don't know why, but sometimes that happens. But he's not a terrible player. He's a very tall shooting guard, and he has a little bit of potential. Not very good potential, but he's not a liability by any means. This is a terrible trade. Why would you do this? Unless Wendell Moore has an A+ potential. I'm not doing that one. We can get Gary Payton again, but I don't really want him. Kendrick Nunn. Or let's see who we can get for. Let's see if we can get a better trade for Killian Hayes alongside somebody. We can get Andrew Nembhard, who has, I think, 4 years on his contract, 3 years and a team option. He could be our bench point guard. Already pretty good at offense, a great playmaker, pretty good at defense. He has a decent potential, decent IQ. He's not terrible. He's actually a pretty decent player with a long contract. Chris Duarte, not as good, but he does have a high potential. But so he could be good if we accept these team options. So the main draw here is really Andrew Nembhard. Not a terrible pick. We'd give up a first round pick, which I don't know if we want to do. Not a lot of options for both of those guys, but that's just too much money we don't want Jay Crowder and Grayson Allen. We just really don't. That's an insane trade. $20 million for each of them. No thanks. Well, $75 million and $20 million. No, thank you. Victor Oladipo and Caleb Martin is not a terrible trade. I don't really want Caleb Martin, but he is good on offense. Victor Oladipo was one of my favorite players for a second there. He's a very good defender, very good offensive player. But I just don't think it's worth it. Josh Hart and Mitchell Robinson is insane. We would pick up so much money. We would pick up $14 million for no reason, but we would have Mitchell Robinson on Josh Hart for quite some time, which I don't think we really need. Doesn't really make sense for us. It's not a really good trade for the Knicks, so that just makes them worse, I think. Although Alec Burks on the Knicks, going back to the Knicks would be fine. I think they would appreciate him there, but no, I don't like Jalen Smith very much. I've had him on my team before, and he just is not good. Terrence Ross, another one of my favorite players. We don't need him on the team. Don't want Kyle Anderson. Kyle Anderson has the biggest forehead known to man, but that's not really going to help us here. This could be a good trade. Trendon Watford, it has him listed at center, but I think he's a center power forward. He might be a better power forward. Although we can't really shoot the three, can he? Well, he's not terrible. But he's only 6'8". It's pretty small for a center. But he's got good rebounding and athleticism. He could be a good pickup. Not sure. Matisse Thybulle. He's a 3-and-D player. He's great at defense. He's great at 3-point scoring. I just saw a TikTok from involving like one of his ex-girlfriends about him the other day. It could be a good pickup. We would get so much free space from doing this, and then we would have Trendon Watford for 3 years because we'd probably keep him. This could be a good trade. It could be a good trade. I'm just gonna see who we can package Killian Hayes with if we want to get somebody decent. Now this might be a better trade. Victor Oladipo and Gabe Vincent might be a better trade, but we don't necessarily need them again. Man, the Knicks really do not want two of their best players on their team, huh? Tibbs just hates those guys, huh? Kevon Looney and Gary Payton is tempting, but not really. I lied. It's not that tempting at all. Jake LaRavia and John Concher is interesting. John Concher has a 5-year contract for some reason. Jake LaRavia is a rookie, so he could grow into something decent, but let me see his. He can shoot the 3. He can play defense in the post, but he doesn't have that good of a potential. John Concher, I already know, is purely an offensive player. He's kind of lights out from 3, but other than that, he's not going to get better in any significant way. Mo Wagner and Bol Bol might be a good pickup if we want to make space at our bigs, which we do. We're definitely getting rid of Marvin Bagley. But I don't think we could go for this. We don't really need these guys. One of the Pistons' problems in real life is that they're backed the fuck up at the big man positions. We don't really need Mo Wagner and Bol Bol, although we could acquire them should we so choose. It's not a terrible trade. As long as we get rid of Killian Hayes, everything is a positive trade, even if it looks like a bad trade. We get Isaiah Joe and Lindy Waters for less. Jalen Noel on a 1-year contract. Taurean Prince getting a lot of money for his age. He's only 28. I thought he was like 34. Damn. Well, I guess he's 30 now in real life, but still. What if we pair him with Bojan? We can get Tobias Harris back on the team. I don't think we need that. No. That's just too much money. This is not a terrible trade, but I don't like Dylan Brooks that much. Tyus Jones could be a great 6th man behind Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey. Dylan Brooks could be a defensive presence for us for a year. I wouldn't re-sign him. He's terrible on offense. But maybe. Absolutely not. This is a terrible trade. No, we don't. On any other team, I would probably take Terry Rozier, but we really just do not need Terry Rozier to be our 6th man. $30 million a year to be our 6th man, or $20 million. I mean, we just don't need it. Evan Fournier is on the Pistons now in real life because we essentially made Bojan for Evan Fournier for whatever reason. Well, we also got Emmanuel Quickly, I think. Was it Quickly or Quentin Grimes? I can't remember. I think it's Quentin Grimes. No. You see, these trades are not good. Buddy Hield would be a good pickup. I do like Buddy Hield. He's only 29 in this game. He can shoot. He is not a liability on defense, but he's pretty much at his peak, which is all we need him for these 2 years. But Again, I don't really need or want Jalen Smith. This is an interesting trade. I've done this trade before, or a similar trade for Zach Collins. And Zach Collins, you can play if you can't find a good power forward, which is a struggle in just the last few years because there's not very many good power forwards out there. And the ones that are sort of very good and committed to their teams. But you could acquire Zach Collins. He's very good at the power forward position. You can play next to Jalen Duren because he's a very good shooter. A- mid, A- 3, B+ inside. He has terrible perimeter defense, but he's a very good shooter. You can play him at the 4. Not a terrible pick. Trey Jones is pretty good. He only has 1 year on this contract, so you only have to pay him $1 million for a single year to be a 79 overall off the bench. He's pretty good at defense. He's got decent IQ. He can play make. He can score on the inside. He's terrible at threes, but not a terrible trade. My YouTube just crashed. Please stop crashing. Please. 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 All right, well, we gotta refresh that. This happens sometimes. I limited my Opera GX so that this would happen less. But maybe it's causing it to happen more. Let's increase the limiter to like 8 for now, just to see. But maybe that'll fix it. I don't know.